Well, after months of frenzied Yellow Vest protests, the French Parliament has now passed a new bill that aims to curb violent protests in the country. The bill was passed with an overwhelming majority in the response to a wave of anti-government Yellow Vest agitations that have rocked France in the past 2 months. The new anti-hooligan law bans protesters from hiding their faces. It also gives police greater powers to extract potential troublemakers from demonstrations and grants local authorities the right to ban individual protesters.
Aller et venir ont peur de le faire. Il est temps que cela cesse. Percuter les vitrines et les forces de l'ordre, ce n'est pas percuter les esprits.
Meanwhile, for the first time since the start of the anti-government protests, French unions have also joined the Yellow Vest protesters. Thousands of protesters hailing from the French unions marched with the Yellow Vest protesters in the western French city of Nantes and the capital Paris to protest the French President Emmanuel Macron's government. Protesters carrying banners and flags chanted anti-government slogans. Hundreds marched to denounce the difficult conditions in the country's employment sector and income inequality.
Il faut discuter et trouver des revendications communes, on les a, et il n'y a aucune raison qu'on ne défile pas côte à côte, les uns derrière les autres. Et ce qui est important, c'est qu'on réussit une première journée ensemble, en semaine, parce que je trouve que le patronat est ménagé et il est temps aussi qu'on demande des comptes aux grands patrons de ce pays.
And my colleague Alina is now joining us live from Paris for the very latest on this government law that is brought in to curtail protesters. And Alina, what are the details of this new law that the French government has brought, and how is it going to in any way help while the protesters are now being joined by union groups as well?
So the more controversial aspects of the bill are that it creates a list of known troublemakers who would be banned from future protests. It allows police to set up a security perimeter around protests and treat it as you would, for example, a football stadium on match day. Everyone going in would have their identity checked, and those who are on the banned list wouldn't be allowed to pass. It also bans people from covering their faces during a demonstration. It's been described by Amnesty International, amongst other NGOs, as extremely dangerous for civil liberties, and it's extremely controversial in the heart of President Macron's own La République En Marche party. Yesterday's vote saw more than 50 pro-Macron MPs refuse to support the law. They abstained, and it was only passed with the basis of support from the La Républicain centre-right opposition. This isn't the final vote on this bill. It then has to go to the Senate and then come back to the Assemblée Nationale, the MPs, for a final vote. So it's not likely to end up on Macron's desk for signing before around the middle of March.
Right, Alina. So thanks for that. So the Yellow Vest protests continue in France now, and the government, of course, is now pushing that law, which still has a long way to go. But Alina, stay with us now. The other big story, of course, so for the first time in the history of the Catholic Church, the Pope has publicly acknowledged the scandal of priests and bishops sexually abusing nuns. Speaking at the news conference while returning to Rome from the United Arab Emirates, the Pope not only acknowledged the problem but vowed to do more to fight the problem. The acknowledgement comes just 2 weeks before the Pope hosts an unprecedented gathering of bishops to craft a global response to the scandal of priests who target children and the superiors who have covered up the crime as well.
Adesso il suo, è vero, dentro della Chiesa c'è stato anche dei chierici e in alcune civilizzazioni un po' più forti degli altri. Non è una cosa che tutti fanno quello, ma ci sono stati sacerdoti e anche vescovi che hanno fatto quello.
And well, Alina is still with us. And Alina, well, how important is this announcement by the Pope himself? Now, there have been so many scandals when it comes to the Catholic Church, but this is the first admission at the highest level and could possibly improve things going forward.
Yes, this is the first admission by the Church that priests or bishops have conducted abuse of nuns, which is a long-running scandal within the Church. There are numerous cases in Latin America, in India, in Italy. It's thought that the Pope was specifically referring to a case that happened here in France, where there was an intervention by the previous Pope Benedict against a group called the Confederation of Sisters of St. John, where there was, in the south of France, where there was a serial abuser, a priest who was a serial abuser who passed away some years ago, but who was thought to be responsible for abusing a number of nuns. So it is the first public admission that this problem exists, and it comes, as you were saying there, just 2 weeks before the Pope gathers bishops and cardinals from around the world in Rome for a conference on what the Church should do to move on from these abuse scandals. Obviously a very difficult, a very controversial topic for the Pope to address, and something he rarely talks about in public, but an important admission that this ongoing historical problem, and indeed current problem, with the sexual abuse of nuns exists.
Right, Elena, thanks very much indeed for joining us with the latest on that big story coming in with Pope Francis. They're announcing that action will be taken at some level to stop the sexual abuse that has ridden the Church for many years now.